Into Monday morning, we roll on, and we wish you the best of Monday mornings. Hoping it's going well for you. Good morning and welcome to Light the Tower here on the Horn, 1049, 1019, AM 1260. We're live, local, and digital on the Horn app and at hornfm.com. So, yes, here on this warm Monday morning. I don't know about you folks, but sometimes I hear that and say, well, it's going to be another warm day. No, it's not going to be another warm day. It's going to be like, temperature of hell day. I mean, it's going to be like blistering hot. And yet,
Satan's undercarriage hot.
There you go. We're underway. My name's Cryway. That voice, of course, is that of my co-host, the pride of Northwest Williamson County, a proud graduate of Florence High School.
Even prouder that I didn't go to Gerald.
Yeah, okay, all right. You know him best for his outstanding work at Horns 24/7, Jeff Howe, who did get a chuckle out of the fact that as I moderated a panel discussion, hosted a Q&A with Mac Brown, and participated in another panel discussion, Jeff got a chuckle out of me wearing the requisite Texas High School Coaches Association staff coaches polo, which yesterday, the color choice yesterday for the staff polo was purple.
That one looks fine. The teal looks fine.
I got the teal on today.
Because you got the white striping, the white piping on it, if you will.
I thought, when every year the Coach Association changes out the colors. They do different, colors of their polos every year. And this year, the color choices just happen to be teal and purple. And I had said to Jeff, I said, somebody's going to give me some grief about this. Sure enough, none other than somebody turned out to be Sark. Steve Sarkis says, look at you in the purple.
Walking around like the Grimace.
Yeah, that's what I said. It was kind of the Grimace thing. But it was but we had a great time at coaching school, and Jeff was down there as well. And Jeff was there also for the press conference for Sark, because each of the invited Division I FBS coaches who were there were invited to, if they would, participate in two things. One, the panel discussion, and secondly, a news conference. This is an annual thing. They've been doing this for years and years and years.
As long as I've been going to these deals.
This was my 38th coaching school, going back to 1985.
It was not my 38th, but I've been to a few.
Yeah, it was my 38th, going back to 1985, and they always have the Division I coaches in the state participate in individual news conference, because it gives media from across the state who might not have an opportunity to make it to Big 12 Media Day, or in the case of this, SEC Media Day starting in Nashville or whatever, and they've gone on. There's American Conference, Media Days, Conference USA, things like that, that it gives them an opportunity by coming to coaching school, a chance to hear from those coaches.
Hey, before we go on, can I get a quick shout out to one of our area coaches who sought me out yesterday? Joe Frank Martinez at Travis.
Yeah, gave me a big hug yesterday.
Yeah, saw him on the third floor milling about. And actually, he saw me and came up to me, and I was talking to somebody, and I saw him kind of coming up out of the corner of my eye, so I got to talk to Coach Martinez for a little bit. So.
It was great to see him. I saw Tony Salazar yesterday.
Briefly saw Jamal Finner.
Yeah.
His role at Texas. So.
I told him, I said, you look good in that burnt orange. He had the burnt orange. I started to say, maybe you should be wearing the purple and I should be wearing the burnt orange. But he was wearing the burnt orange coach's polo from the University of Texas, of course, in his role with high school relations with the Longhorn football program. So there's a news conference and then there's a panel discussion. So they have both, and an opportunity to participate in those things. And so as the moderator on those deals, and they give me a badge to be, whatever, staffer. It lists me as staff. And, of course, I MC the Hall of Honor dinner on Saturday night, which was just awesome. The Hall of Honor banquet is always great, a great event, and did that. So it just so happened this year the two polo choices are teal and purple. And if for folks who say, well, why didn't you wear the teal one? Because you are assigned a color on that day. And yesterday's color assignment was purple. Today is teal. Now, they're still going on down there. We had to get back to do a show, but I am wearing my teal one today. So
Coach West and all the staff over there, everybody was walking around with the purple shirts yesterday.
We had the purple on yesterday. Absolutely. So a lot of fun with that and a lot to get to on the program. You were in that press conference there for Sark yesterday.
I was.
So we've got sound from that
yes,
today.
And you know who cut that sound for us?
The one and only producer, and you call him what? Play-by-play prodigy?
Play-by-play prodigy.
That would be Cameron Parker, who was back here minding the store as always.
Cameron.
For the first time in, 100 years, we're all back together in the studio. Jeff,
That's
me,
been a minute.
and Craig.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah.
A little bit. Yeah, absolutely. So that's good.
We get a couple of days because I'm out on Wednesday.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yep.
scheduled day off.
Yeah.
So,
Yep.
we get a couple of days and then a little break and then a couple more days.
Yep. So yes, we're all back in the house together. So that's a good thing there. So we did. So Cam sliced and diced that. Also, I had an interview, a brief chat with G.J. Kinney, the head coach of Jeff's alma mater.
I'm wearing my Texas State shirt today.
You
I
are,
didn't think about
wearing
that.
that. Yeah. So obviously, in addition to covering the Longhorns as we do, we also cover Texas State. So I had an opportunity to visit with Coach K. I hadn't had. We joked about this. I had not had an opportunity to have just a conversation with him since he was on the roster at the University of Texas. That's how long ago it's been.
Man.
Yeah, because then, of course, obviously he transferred to Tulsa and he played well there and then went into the coaching realm.
You know, I was talking to Mac yesterday about one of the things I wanted to ask him, and he appreciated the question. A lot of guys that played for him are high school coaches, they're college coaches, they're NFL coaches, and Kyle Shanahan, most notably among them. And I thought about it, I'm like, man, you know what? If you look at that Mac Brown coaching tree of his players, GJ counts toward that. He did spend a year as a backup quarterback at Texas, so he counts.
Yes, he does. So, but we had a good visit, and we'll have the interview we did about his football team coming up as well. So we'll have that.
Can I tell you something though on that front?
Yeah,
very optimistic. First time I've been legitimately optimistic about where my alma mater is headed on the gridiron. It's not just because of GJ. When I was down there for the baseball game, when Texas played down at Bobcat Ballpark, to see an athletic director and a president who were present and interacting with the students and look like they are legitimately excited about athletics.
Very supportive of it.
Yeah, that gives me hope that hadn't been there in a long time.
Yeah.
For my alma mater.
That's cool.
Really, really good to see.
I had my first conversation also with the head coach of my alma mater, Eric Morris, the head coach in North Texas. And we visited for a little bit, and he said, "You're going to come see us?" He goes, "I know you're a little busy with what you're doing." I said, "Well, there is an open date on the schedule." He goes, "Check it. If we're at home, let me know." He goes, "I'll hook you up."
And there, you talk about everybody wants to recruit the Metroplex. He's made the right moves. I mean, he got Chris Gilbert over on his staff after, coaches a couple years
he did.
On Sark's staff. Justin Owens running recruiting, and there's probably not anybody as plugged into kids in the Metroplex like Coach O is. So Eric Morris has made some really good moves putting that staff together.
He said 9 of his coaches have Texas high school coaching experience.
Yeah.
So they all know that. So there's a lot to get to there with.
Hey, why did Dana Holgerson look dressed like he was ready to go coach a game yesterday?
He was in coaching
He had like the
polo.
khakis and his coach's polo
Had
tucked
the
in his
cap
hat.
on.
I'm like, dude, he all he needs is a headset and he's ready to go.
The division.
Everybody else is wearing suit jackets and Holgerson's ready for kickoff.
It's funny you bring that up because, like I said, the sequence of events runs like this. When you go into coaching school, and for folks who don't know what coaching school is, it is the largest convocation of coaches in the world at any one time, like nearly 13,000 coaches, all descending on Houston. Now, I used to call it the world's largest convocation of bike shorts and heat balm because it used to be that way back in the day of the bike shorts.
Can I to remind everybody the requisite offensive line coaching uniform? You got the polo shirt, not the dry fit, the cotton polo.
Yeah.
tucked into and the polo's got to have some kind of stain on it.
Yes.
It's tucked into the bike or the Voight coaching shorts.
Yeah, those,
and if you're
the elastic ones.
Yeah, and if you're an offensive line coach worth your salt, you've got a snuff can in your back pocket. Or a ring where your snuff might have leaked through, and there's that skull ring on your back pocket.
Tall white socks.
Yeah. Yep.
And then sneakers.
Yeah.
And
looking like those Nike Monarchs, like the old man grandpa shoes.
You remember our friend, the late Maury Salinger, who for many years was the press coordinator for the High School Coaches Association.
I got in on some of those deals when Maury was still there.
Maury used to dress exactly like that every year. Every year he did. So yeah, it was it's cool, but the event, it used to be that the final event of coaching school was the Hall of Honor banquet, but it was a luncheon, and they changed that a few years ago to a dinner, and I think it was so much better received, not just because it's a dinner instead of a luncheon, but because it kind of starts everything off on Saturday night,
and it's not where everybody's just leaving on that day.
Exactly, they had the largest attendance ever for their Hall of Honor thing. It was nearly 1,000 people for that.
Some heavy hitters going in this year.
Yeah, Tim Buchanan, of course, and was in there. Glenn West himself going in there. David Amon, who won a state title when he had Bobby Reed at quarterback. I called that state championship game.
Hey, because Tim Buchanan's in the Hall of Honor, we can say Florence, Texas has produced somebody in the THSCA Hall of Honor.
He does have an affiliation with Florence.
He proudly claims his affiliation.
He does. Now, what went on in his bio was to listen that he played football at Killeen.
Right.
But, yes, he started out in Florence. So there was that. Don Compton, who did a great job for decades in the Panhandle at Hereford. And his big coaching cry was hubba hubba. And one of the guys who played quarterback for him was Alan Wardis, son of the great Larry Wardis, the coach there. Alan, by the way, of course, very, very close friend with our good friend, the Colonel, the retired Colonel, Craig Flowers. And I talked to Alan after the banquet. I said, where's your soulmate for that? He said he's making money. He's out there doing that. But he was it was a great event that we had. Oh, and Brian Dowson, who won state championship in '95 at San Antonio Roosevelt, and I did that game. Remember that very well. Remember he had the big defensive end, Dwayne Missouri, who was really, really
Played
good.
for the Cowboys for a little bit.
Yeah. He was the keynote of that defense, and they beat a favored Flower Mound Marcus team, and knocked it. That had Chris Sanders at quarterback.
Was that the game you did at Alamo Stadium?
It was at the rock pile.
The plywood.
When they wired up the wrong booth, we were supposed to. Jerry Comalander, the athletic director for the San Antonio ISD, went to great pains to setting up reserving this nice weather protected booth there for us. And the crew for what was then called Prime Sports. It was before Fox Southwest, in between the HSE days and the Fox Southwest days. It was called Prime Sports. Wired the wrong. They wired this plywood like deer blind that was on top of the press box for school video cameras. We're like, what are you doing? And producers, well, too late now. Got to use it. Great. Fortunately, it wasn't too bad. It was 50 degrees and chilly with the wind blowing, but Ed Biles and I called that game back in the day. So it was. You start off with the Hall of Honor.
Cameron doesn't know about that, by the way. Cameron gets those as the voice of the McNeil Mavericks. You got the nice cush Kelly Reeves athletic complex.
Yeah. Well, I've been in Nelson Field.
Why you got to throw Nelson under the bus?
Yeah, what are you throwing Victor under the bus here for, you know? I love working at Nelson.
You haven't done play-by-play for high school football in this area until you've done a game on the roof of House Park, which I know Craig has.
It's the Valhalla. And it's a shame it's not allowed anymore because you would really enjoy it. There's a shot of me and Rod Babers calling the game.
I was going to say Rod's been up there. Yep.
Wonderful place.
So Cameron, if you get a chance to go to House Park, just tell them, can you guys put me on the roof?
Yeah, let me up there.
It's not structurally sound. Like, no. This is a bucket list thing. I need to cross it off.
Been there twice, and the way the press box is positioned, the sun is beaming right on you until it goes behind. Yeah. So that little room is
that's because they put you on the east side.
Yeah.
Over there, when you're looking right into that, that's where they have to put radio nowadays. Now, when Roger Wallace does the Taco Shack Bowl every year, they are on the west side. It's in a very tiny booth, but they're on the west side there. But we used to get on the roof, and I always said, I'll never forget, the first time I was on the roof there was Anderson High to lead off the 98 season, Anderson against Victoria. And Victoria was really good. Mark Reeve was the coach there, and I saw Coach Reeve yesterday. And they came in, and the temperature on the roof, our good friend Mike Pirtle had a digital thermometer up there on the roof. It was 108 on the roof there. And we felt like we were melting there because you're right there in the sun. But it was still great. And Anderson, I think,
did you have an awning or a tent or
nope,
anything?
No. Now, in later years, we did do that. But at the time, before they figured out the winch and pulley thing where they would get all the stuff up and hoist it up there, in the days before that, you shot it up through this little chute. Chad Hastings always said that when he did games there and worked with me on some, he had to climb this ladder through this little chute up to the roof. Yeah. He said it reminded him of like an action-adventure film, like something like a Steven Seagal, like, move, there's no time, get out, and you're having to move up through there. It was great. I love doing it up there. I think Victoria won like 48-7 or something like that. But it was a great. Also, one of the strangest, oddest, uncomfortable broadcast experiences I have ever had happened on that roof.
The roof of House Park,
and it had nothing to do with the roof.
Wasn't the heat stroke?
Nope, had nothing to do with that. It was 9/13/01.
Yeah.
2 days after 9/11. And at the time, and we were set to broadcast Lanier at the time. Now, of course, obviously it's Navarro Early College Prep. But Lanier against Kerrville-Tivy, pre-Johnny Manziel.
Yes.
And a Thursday night game. And the morning of 9/11, I was sick, actually. I was asleep and I had been sick. And then I get up about 10 o'clock, and Chad calls me because we were wondering. He goes, "Hey, have you heard if the game's been canceled yet?" And I said, "What?" He goes, "No." First, he goes, "Are we still on for the game?" And I'm like, "Dude, I was sick. I'll be okay by Thursday." He goes, "No. I'm talking about with everything's happening." I said, "What do you mean?" He goes, "The world's gone crazy. Check your television." And I had not known because I'd been sick, and so, but the game was not canceled. And so we had to do the game, and it was 52-0, and we did the game. And then the next night, Keith Moreland and I did Westlake and A&M Consolidated over in College Station. Had a big patriotic thing with both bands. The high schools in every state in the United States, other than New York, obviously, and I think there was one other one, maybe Massachusetts. They were the only ones that voted not to play that weekend. Every other state athletic organization voted to play that weekend. So we had a scheduled broadcast, but it just felt strange and eerie and out of place. But that was on the roof of House Park as well. So anyway,
you know where my high school game was? Because that was my senior year, where our high school game was the week of 9/11.
Where?
The Graveyard in San Saba.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah.
And you guys played.
If I remember right, didn't for sure know until like Wednesday afternoon.
That's correct. That's correct.
Playing.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's correct. So the Hall of Honor banquet is Saturday night, and then it started yesterday. The exhibit halls. Did you get a chance to go into the exhibit hall?
You know, I didn't. I got my credential, which is right outside the exhibit hall, but I didn't get a chance to go through. I was going to go holler at the Dave Campbell's crew.
They were there.
I saw some people coming and going, but I didn't get a chance to go to the exhibit hall.
It's usual craziness. I told Cam, I said he has to go one year just to, if you can think of something that would be a gadget or a device or a learning instruction thing or apparel or energy drink or whatever, it's there.
Yeah.
Because all those vendors are there, appealing to the high school coaches and administrators.
I needed to go find whoever's making, whether it's, I don't know if it's McDavid or whoever's making blocking equipment, ask them, hey, why don't y'all make some people buy some 7-man sleds? Stop making 5-man sleds. Just make 7-man sleds.
There you go.
Get on them and bring it back. Make it great again.
One guy I saw is my broadcast partner on the high school state championship telecast, Gary Reasons.
I did see Gary Reasons yesterday.
He's got a new book coming out. We're going to have Gary on the show here sometime in the next 10 days or so.
Nice.
When he gets his schedule in line, talk about his book, and he's doing some other things, an initiative outside of it, a charitable initiative, and it's really cool. So we'll do that. So on Sunday you have lectures, and on Monday you have lectures, and tomorrow
I didn't get to go to any lectures yesterday either.
I walked in on a couple.
The one I wanted to go to was there was a press conference going on at that time.
That's right. And then there was lectures yesterday. There are lectures all day today. And then tomorrow is the General Assembly where they elect a new president and do some other things as well. But we had a couple of really cool moments, like I said. At just past noon, we had a Q&A. Mac Brown and I were on the stage. It was very similar, and I wanted it to be this way on purpose. If you listen to the program on Friday, when Mac was on with us on Friday here on Light the Tower, a lot of the things I asked him were things that I asked him on Sunday, and I wanted that way because I wanted our listeners, our folks, to hear a little bit about what he was going to talk about. And it was even more expansive on the show here because we had more time. We only had 25 minutes to do, and we went about 25 minutes. And then Mac and I participated in a panel discussion along with Jody Conrad and Libby Pacheco of the High School Coaches Education Foundation, and we participated in a panel discussion, and that was cool. And then there were all that series of news conferences like the ones that Jeff was in, including one with Mac Brown. He did a news conference after, and there's that iconic picture of him and Sark. Yeah. And I put it as part of a Facebook post up there. It was the two of them together.
It was good to see Mac, and he seemed happy to see me. We were kind of got to the podium at the same time. And I was setting my recorder up there. I was messing with it, and he was looking at whatever he had in his hand. And we both kind of look up at the same time, and he's like, "Jeff, good to see you." I'm like, "Yeah." I was like, "It's been a minute." And he said, "Well, yeah, it has, hadn't it?"
And then he did a walk and talk with you afterwards, didn't he? Because he was on his way out and had to go back to catch his plane because he flew in yesterday morning, was picked up at the airport, brought in, did the Q&A with me and the panel discussion with us afterwards, did his news conference, and then he was shuttled back to the airport and he flew back because he said, "I got to get back to Chapel Hill."
I don't know if he mentioned this with you guys on Friday, but he said during the press conference he doesn't go around doing clinics anymore.
He doesn't.
Unless it's on campus at Chapel Hill for their clinic, he doesn't speak anymore. He did this as a favor to the THSCA, and I don't know if he said this on Friday, but he said this in the press conference. He never really got to say his goodbye to the THSCA and the high school coaches in the state. Never got to say thank you for everything they did for him for 16 years. So he really, really, I don't know if closer's the right word you want to use, but he really wanted that platform to thank the high school coaches. I mean, that's one of the kind of highlight moments from when he's up there accepting the national championship trophy, doing an interview with John Saunders. He doesn't get very far before he thanks high school coaches in the state of Texas.
Yes.
And puts high school football on a platform. The guy just won the national championship, and one of the first groups of people he recognizes are high school football coaches in the state of Texas.
He mentioned that in the Q&A, and he said that was important to him to do, not necessarily just because of the recruiting thing and all that. He said he genuinely felt like he owed it to them. And he felt like he owed it to the Coach Association to come back and speak. Glenn West, who was one of the inductees going into the Hall of Honor last Saturday night, but he's the assistant executive director. He flew to Chapel Hill last year for a game to ask Mac to come and speak at this. And the way that Glenn tells it is, when he was talking to Mac, he said, "Hey, we'd really like you to come and speak." Glenn said the way I put it was, we've been wanting to get you to come and speak at coaching school. And Mac said, "Well, you better hurry." He said, "I'm not going to be doing this a lot longer." So he said, "Well, how about next July?" And he said, "Okay." So he did it. That was really good. And then there was the Division I coaches panel discussion.
Before that, though, and we'll get to more of this tomorrow, added to the press conference, and this is why I missed the Blake Giddy and AJ Milwee lecture, because they brought in Gary Kubiak and David Pierce for a press conference because they had done a panel together. And in case anybody doesn't know, they're brother-in-laws. And it's really weird to have like the A&M side and the Texas side. And of course, everybody's asking Gary Kubiak about the game being back and everything. But I had a really, really good conversation with David Pierce for about 10 to 15 minutes yesterday, and we'll get into some of that more tomorrow.
Good. And you're right. When Mac walked off the stage at the end of the Q&A, ascending the stage is Blake Gideon.
Yeah.
I said, "Hey, did you see?" And he laughed. He goes, "Yeah, I did." He had really good things to say, obviously, in the Q&A and then the panel. But then afterwards, like I said, the Division I FBS coaches panel discussion happen, every Division I FBS coach in the state of Texas, including Casey Keeler of Sam Houston, because they are now Division I FBS. They are.
Thank goodness Sam Houston doesn't have to play that wheels off like outlaw schedule that they had a couple of years ago.
Yeah. So, and by the way, they are still, quote unquote, technically ineligible to participate in a bowl, but they've already petitioned the NCAA saying if we have a winning record and if you have not enough bowl slots to be filled by teams, 6 wins. If we have 6 wins and you don't have enough 6-6 teams, they're petitioning, asking to be asked to be invited at 6-6 to a bowl game over a 5-7.
I'd rather see that.
Yeah, I would as well. But Casey Keeler was on there, Dana Holgerson at Houston, Mike Bloomgren at Rice, Sonny Dykes at TCU, Eric Morris at North Texas, Jeff Traylor, UTSA, who as usual steals the show. He was hilarious. Rhett Lashley of SMU, obviously Sark. I mentioned Dana Holgerson. Who else am I leaving? Dana Dimmel from UTEP. And G.J. Kinney of Texas State. Every Division I FBS coach was up there except for 2. One was
Dave
Aranda, who told us, you and I, last Tuesday when he joined us, or Wednesday at Big 12 Media Day, said he would not be there, and he'd already let the High School Coach Association know that because of the passing of his father, and he was going to be at his memorial service. And so we mentioned that yesterday. And then Jimbo Fisher wasn't there. And I know it surprised some people because earlier he had committed to being there, but he wasn't there.
Yeah, Jimbo missed. I didn't know this. Aggie Coaches Night in Austin, the fish fry. Apparently Jimbo missed that.
Did he?
That was apparently, this is, and A&M fans or boosters, if somebody's listening wants to correct me, feel free. I heard that there was a medical issue with his son that it needed tending to, and that's why he couldn't make that deal.
Okay.
So,
yeah. The way the Coaches Association basically told me that they weren't given a reason other than they were given about 2 hours notice that he was not going to be there. And so they pivoted off of that. They just, I think someone operations or whatever said he's not going to be there.
Yeah.
So anyway, so there was that, and there was the actual panel discussion itself, which was compelling. The topics that are always the most compelling these days: transfer portal and NIL.
Yeah.
And I thought it was really interesting how, some of the coaches talked about transfer portal. Sonny Dykes talked about it. He said, yeah, we had to take some. Rhett Lashley at SMU, we had to take several to do that. But understand that a lot of times, and GJ said this, and I think he said it in my conversation with him, when we're taking transfer portal kids, most of the time we're taking kids that still played their high school football in Texas, no matter where they were before, because they have an understanding of what we want. Sark, and every coach, and you've got 1 hour to get questioned, an equal number of questions for 11 coaches. That's one of the hardest things I have to do on that deal. It's fun, but I have to manage time, and I'm looking who hasn't had an opportunity. Everybody got at least 2 questions.
There was that one year where Gary Patterson answered a question, and I swear it took
6.5 minutes.
It felt like 20.
I know. It was 6.5 minutes. And so we said, and that was because what we had done was we allowed in the past the coaches to kind of give a little welcome and, hey, from our program, if you coaches, anytime you want to come by, just a chance to sell their program. That was something the Coaches Association wanted to do. Well, after he did that, they said, we have almost no panel time left by the time everybody got a chance to do it.
And GP's good people, but he went down his too deep and talked about his staff, and I think we knew who the TCU laundry folks were by the time he was done with that thing.
And then Jimbo went and he went rapid fire through his stuff.
Well, yeah, Jimbo says the same stuff GP says. It's just about a quarter of the time.
Yeah, and then Holgerson comes in behind and goes, yeah, GP up here monopolizing all the time, and then you got Jimbo talks so damn fast nobody can understand him, and he's just going. So they were like, yeah, we're going to change that. We're going to just jump right into it. So we did. Sark talked about how difficult an evaluation process is and how difficult it is, he said, we've got 30 new faces on our roster. 25 are high school kids, 5 are portal. He said, but I got to let you guys know. And he's talking to the high school coaches. Big room for me. He said, it's hard. It's very difficult for us talking about, do you feel that immediate need? Are you doing development? So he was explaining that, and they all had their time to talk about that and NIL and things of that nature and the money and how Sonny Dykes spoke at length about how there've got to be what did he said there's got to be some gatekeeping on it. There's got to be some other things. So anyway, that was kind of the wrap of that. We're going to hear from Sark, right? Here with the Longhorn Network.
We got some cuts.
We've got that. We do have Inconceivable. We've got that today. And we've got a lot more as we continue to light the tower. Here's another thing, too. Jeff, are you having difficulty accessing our text line?
No.
Okay, because it's not coming up here on my
with that computer?
Yep. So
right.
our it's good to know that it's coming up there, 337-3776, 512-337-3776.
I'll see if I can fix that for you during the break.
Okay, that's the text line. Also, as always, we give away a copy of Dave Campbell's Texas Football Magazine. Yeah, we're doing it right now. Be the 8th caller. Caller number 8 at 512-447-3776. number 8 caller, 512-447-3776. Cam will get your name and information down to win a copy of the 2023 Dave Campbell's Texas Football Magazine from Light the Tower on the Horn, 104.9, 101.9, AM 1260, live, local, and digital on the Horn app and hornfm.com. You know, whenever I'm at one of these big events like coaching school, they have things up on big screens and you get a chance to see it. And I do think about Tom McKay and audiovisual consultations because let's just say, for example, you've got your home entertainment or the room that you want to do this, and you'd like to do that home theater setup, but you don't know how to go about it. You don't want to deal with the wiring and the mounting and the equipment that it takes. That's where Tom and his staff are experts, and they handle all of that, and they can do it with aplomb, and they can do it very easily and professionally. They'll come over. You're talking about 90-inch screen, up to 150 inches. Tom and his staff have the equipment, the knowledge, and expertise to set up your home entertainment room, your man cave, your den, your family, whatever it might be, the way you want it, and to work within the budget that works for you as well. So check them out on the web at avconsultations.com. Then give Tom a call, 512-255-8678. That's 512-255-8678. Let Tom McKay and Audiovisual Consultations help you realize the home entertainment system of your dreams. Okay, our Specs text line is up. It was up anyway. It just wasn't on my computer, but it is now. Thanks to Jeff and resetting all of that. 512-337-3776. Let me just say...
means you can send in your not safe for work pictures, and Craig now has access to them, so fire away.
Oh, yeah. I will say this to the one texter who asked about changes upcoming and things like that. I would say in the coming days, short days, we're going to have some more clarity for you. I know some folks are wanting more answers than we've been at liberty to be able to disclose, but we will give you some more information, and so that you'll have a clearer picture here in the coming couple of days. So just hang with us on that.
If you really want to know, you want answers, you want hard, concrete answers, Cameron is on Twitter at Cameron D. Parker. So feel free. His DMs are open, so feel free to.
Very cruel of you, Jeff. Very cruel.
So yeah, we'll have some more information for you coming. Obviously, you already heard the news. The release came down last Thursday, and we read it right after it came down. And in full disclosure about the broadcast rights for Longhorn athletics moving across town to iHeartMedia, we did talk about that. You've seen the other release about upcoming programming to be on 101.9 and AM 1260. We'll have some more clarity and some more information here in the coming couple of days. So we're just asking you to hang with us here. We'll have a little more disclosure for you here coming up here pretty soon, as some I's are dotted and some T's are crossed. Somebody said, any idea where Dave Campbell's Texas football can be purchased? Can't find it any at the usual places. I would think it would be on the newsstands by now. In fact, I know it is. I say the newsstand. The closest newsstand to here is probably New York City, actual newsstand.
By the way, I did see a couple of newsstands when I was in New York for the Texas play, the Jimmy V Classic.
Yes.
I don't know. I haven't been to either of these stores in a minute. H-E-B and Walmart typically have them.
And
yes.
Barnes & Noble.
Yes.
Typically.
Barnes & Noble is pretty much the only place you can find the Phil Steele college football preview now.
Yep. Yeah. So those are the usual knee-jerk reactions from us to tell you to check out those places you may already have. And you know, so that's it. Somebody said Barnes & Noble.
Okay. Cool.
So there. So hopefully
we've got a little bit of breaking news as we start the Longhorn Notebook too, Craig.
Okay, so let's do the Longhorn Notebook sounder, and then we'll do breaking news sounder. How about that?
So I saw this release come down. You've got in my mailbox pretty much almost at the start of the show. If you've gotten used to saying the AT&T Red River Showdown, that applies for you, Craig, since you have to call it by the full sponsored name.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, that goes out the window now.
It's not the Red River Showdown anymore.
The Texas OU game.
And it's not what I wanted it to be, what I told Rod Babers years ago, and he loved the idea. The State Fair Street Fight. It's not that either.
We're going back to a little alliteration because this is the All-State Red River Rivalry.
All right, all you Elmer Fudnicks out there, Wed Wivel Rivalry. It's the Red River Rivalry, and it has returned. But, you know, a lot of people, I noticed, still were calling it that.
Yeah.
Even after it went to Showdown, a lot of people were calling it Red River Rivalry.
I think I like the new logo, guys. I think it's better than the AT&T one.
Okay, I'll give you yes. Thank you, Cam. I'll give them that. The logo does look sharp. My deal is I just our Horns 24/7 staff, I think it was going into the 2021 game. I finally had to tell everybody, look, for purposes of making sure, because, you know, when you run a website, you got to make sure SEO and all that stuff is on point. I'm like, we've got to decide. We're either all doing shootout or we're either all doing showdown.
Yeah.
Can't be pick and choose. I want
Right.
Red River Rivalry. I want shootout. No, whatever. Got to do one. Got to pick one. So we're like, okay, it's showdown. We'll go with showdown. So now
it's rivalry
again. So
it's rivalry.
There you go.
It says Allstate is the title sponsor of it now. So and it's so it's going to be called the Allstate Red River Rivalry. I would just say if you have trouble saying it, just kind of do it slowly. Red River rivalry. You don't have to try to fly through Red River rivalry. I mean, that's a tongue twister. Say that fast 10 times. Say it fast 5 times. Red River rivalry. You're gonna struggle with it if it does that. I've always been a fan and a student of elocutionary skill. That's why I always said that two things that I've never had a chance to do that I would have liked to have done is to be able to learn how to call an auction and how to call a square dance.
Square dance thing is random, but the auction, I can see how you'd want to do that.
Because both require elocutionary skill.
You got to go to like auctioneers, like an auctioneer college.
You do,
to be able to
and I've had people say, I could teach how to do it. I could teach how to do it. And they probably could, but,
My wife had one of her students years ago who that's one of the things he did. I think the family owned an auction company. He had to legit go to auctioneers college to learn how to speak that fast and how to run an auction.
Absolutely. So they both require some elocutionary skill, as it does for the Red River rivalry.
Yes, but Steve Sarkisian won the Red River game last year, 49-0, and Sark, before he gets ready for his third OU game, third season on the job. We heard a lot from Sark from Big 12 Media Days, but as we've said, he had his press conference at the THSCA convention yesterday. Just get to a couple things, and we'll have time, an hour or two, to get to some of these too. So, Cameron, let's go ahead and get to cut two. This is Sark talking about the director of high school relations position that they've had. Chris Gilbert was in that role when Sark got hired. He's now got a full-time spot at North Texas, and you'll hear Sark talking about Jamal Fenner. He feels like Coach Fenner's on the same track, and whoever he hires after that, they just kind of hope to keep that going.
It's been huge. I'm about opportunity, and the fact that Chris Gilbert was able to come on board and get a full-time position job at North Texas, and then you hire Jamal Fenner, who probably in a year or two will be in the same boat, and then that creates that opportunity for the next guy. That we're about promoting success for people, and I think along the way our players forge great relationships with those guys. The high school coaches in the state of Texas know that, hey, we're hiring good people. And if they want to come around, they want to be around the program, come to practice, sit in meetings, whatever that looks like, they've got a great conduit to make that happen. But ultimately, like, that connection and then the growth out of the position is, I think, why those guys took these jobs. And if I can be a springboard for them, that's a huge deal for us. And the fact that, man, if we can keep bringing people in, great people, good people that are respected in the high school ranks, that then they can go on and do more. Well, that's good for them. That's good for us. That's good for our players, because ultimately everybody wins.
I think that goes for staff positions as a whole, because you look at Sark's coaching staff, the 10 full-time assistants, really, other than Andre Coleman, retaining him, Sark's made some really good calls. I mean, he's had 2 guys leave on their own volition. Stan Drayton took a head coaching job, and Brennan Marion took an OC job where he could call plays, which he wasn't going to do at Texas. So he's had 2 assistants move up, and I think you look at the rest of that staff, Craig. There's guys that probably, I'm sure Tashard Choice at some point wants to be a head coach. Sure, I'm sure Jeff Banks at some point wants to be a head coach. And then you've got some guys like, Bo Davis is kind of a lifer assistant. So it's an interesting mix on the on-field staff. But I think people get hung up on the player personnel jobs, the behind-the-scenes jobs of when somebody does move on or gets a promotion. It's like, oh, you need to pay that person more. We got to keep them. Well, those jobs aren't meant for you to stay in that job for 10 to 15 years.
They have a shelf life. Yeah,
you're there, 3 to 5, and then you're on to whatever's next. So
Rick Barnes used to say, and he goes, this isn't 100% every single case, but it's the vast majority of cases. I don't want to hire an assistant. Do we have some breaking news?
No, sorry.
Oh, okay.
Thank you, Kim.
That was the board completely glitching.
Okay. Rick Barnes said this is not true in every single case, but for the majority of guys, I don't want to hire an assistant coach who doesn't want to be a head coach someday. Yeah. I don't want to hire a guy who's content just to be a lifer. He said, now it's not true in every case, and You think about Bill Guthridge was an assistant to Dean Smith, I think 31 years or whatever, and then he became the head coach when Dean Smith retired. Actually got Carolina to a Final Four, but it just never really ultimately clicked. The other night when Glenn West was inducted into the Hall of Honor, he was the son of Ken West, who was a long-time assistant, and he said, my dad never really wanted to be a head coach, and the reason why, he was a long-time assistant at Brownwood under the immortal and legendary Gordon Wood. And they had the thing. Morris Southall, the longtime offensive coordinator, he was a lot of the glue back behind it. And both of those guys are in the Hall of Honor for their work as assistant coaches, not as head coaches. It's not true in every case, but it's true in a lot of cases that assistants ultimately want to be head coaches.
Yep. I want to get to we've got time for one, maybe two more. So Cam, let's go to cut 5. Somewhat in that same vein, Craig, we talk about college coaches have so much on their plates now, and Sark was asked, something along the lines of, do you feel like you've got enough time to do everything you want to do? And he gets into, because we know, look, he calls his own plays. He's heavily involved in recruiting. When you're the head coach of Texas, you got to handle, the donor aspect, and you got to go to dinners and things like that. You wear a lot of hats when you're the head coach here. And this is Sark talking about time management as far as getting everything done he wants to get done.
My wife asks me that question all the time because I want to do it all, and I commit to doing it all. I mean, when I sign up to be the head coach at the University of Texas, I recruit, I game plan, I call plays, I mentor. I do everything. And so, if I wanted an easier way out, I'd go to the NFL because they don't have to recruit. It's a little different. It's a little easier. So the reality of it is I love what I get to do, and I get to be impactful on young men's lives and families' lives. And so I enjoy it and I embrace it.
And then Cam, one more cut here. We'll go to cut 7. Sark was asked various questions about the THSCA, about high school football in the state of Texas. But I just thought this one was probably his best answer on all of it. This is basically what he's taken away from his time being around high school football in the state.
Well, I think first and foremost, the coaching is impeccable. What the high school coaches do in this state is incredible. I think when we get them, they're so much more well-versed to accommodate to what we do and what we ask of the players. The competition is incredible. I will say that. I think about what's going on in the state championship games at the end of the year and what these guys do to get their teams ready to play in those games. But then, for me, I go out in January and I kind of bebop around, and I'm getting in weight training sessions and different things. I'm watching guys work. It's across the board. It's not just the teams that are playing for state championships. It's across the board. These guys work, and these coaches have an impact on these young men, and that's why I want to celebrate them. That's why I'm here, because the impact they have on young people's lives, which is why we do what we do, is incredible. So I commend everybody for the job that they do. It's not easy, and not everybody's making a bunch of money, and they're doing it out of the goodness of their heart. And I'm very appreciative of that because, man, I said my son is a freshman at UT right now, and he had a great high school coach, and he was lucky. And not all of them get that, but when you get a good high school coach, they start kind of laying that foundation for what it's supposed to look like in your future outside of football, and that's why we do what we do.
I know we have a lot of high school coaches in the area who listen to this show because I get, Facebook messages or Twitter DMs, or in the case of yesterday, coaches stopping me in the hallway at the exhibit hall telling me that they enjoy our little 2 hours right here of our live local program. And I know a lot of them are in Houston right now, getting professional development hours and going to lectures and things like that. But I think it's always nice for the high school coaches to just have that reinforced that, the big time FBS head coaches in this state really do care about what they're doing.
I used to have head coaches tell me, celebrated ones who are in the Hall of Honor, and this has been several years, tell me that, coaching school has changed from the days when we'd all pile in one school, the ISD vehicle, go down there, 4 dudes sleep into a room there doing that. And then, of course, there used to be the image that somebody used to say, and it wasn't the Coach Association. He said it was one of the others. Said you could always tell when coaching school was down because the best businesses that were done were on the golf courses and the cabarets.
Yeah.
But a lot of that has drastically changed.
Yeah, it's
now
I hearing from coaches that again did this stuff 20, 30 years ago, and they'll talk about some of the best. You can go to lectures or whatever. Some of the best. Talking ball and things you pick up, it's 8 people in a room and everybody just sitting around drawing up stuff literally on napkins.
Yeah,
with some beverages flowing.
It's really cool. It's good experience. Well, and more on that, and also the experience that Jeff and I had independent of one another last night, not realizing the other one was doing the exact same thing at that time. We'll tell you about that coming up when we continue. Up next, Inconceivable and Light the Tower on the Horn, 104.9, 101.9, AM 1260. We're live, local, and digital on the Horn app and at hornfm.com. Heat of the summer. Yep, all underway. And so that's when the higher power bills start arriving. Why not be prepared for this? Save some money with a new Timberline solar shingle roof from my friend John Hardy and his great staff at Divided Sky Roofing and Solar. They're also a full-service solar company. Maybe you already have a solar system, but you don't have a backup battery. Well, then you'd be wasting money because with a backup battery, you're able to use all of the power you make instead of giving it back to the power company. The batteries are now covered by the Inflation Reduction Act, so you get that tax credit, and we can all certainly use that. John and his staff are solar experts. They can repair and service your existing solar system. There's other roofers you hear about are just selling you a solar roof. John and the staff at Divided Sky Roofing and Solar can repair and service your existing solar system. We're talking about people who really are a resource. They can help extend the life of your system, and they're all master electricians, the entire crew. They're all NABCET certified, the solar version of the master plumber. Trust your roofing and solar needs to the experts, our friends at Divided Sky Roofing and Solar. It's 512-995-ROOF, TEC license number 37397, or check them out on the web at dividedskyaustin.com. One thing, quick cleanup thing here, even though we normally do the cleanup after hour number one. Somebody asking us to please pronounce Neto Umeozulu's name. That's how it's pronounced. You may have heard other things, Umo Zulu. That's not what we've heard. You've heard Umeozulu, right?
I've been saying that's how Mike Roach pronounced it. That's how Mike told me he was told it's pronounced. That's how you've been saying it during broadcast. Nobody's corrected you yet.
Yep.
So
right. So, so there you go. Okay. On Inconceivable we go. And let's see, did we have we did not have a fast food note today. I thought we did, but we don't. So maybe we'll have another one. But what we do have, we've got a couple of things.
Hey, actually, I got some breaking news. If you want to start sports-related breaking news.
Okay, let's roll that one in there right now.
This is according to Brett McMurphy, and this is Brett McMurphy's real account.
Mm-hmm.
Next year's SEC Media Days, which we will attend, doesn't look like we'll have to go very far because Brett McMurphy's saying it'll be held in Dallas. Sources tell Action Network.
He means, when he says Dallas, he must mean Arlington.
It'll be the first year with Texas and Oklahoma in the league. And the first time SEC Media Days will be held, he said, in the Longhorn State, but in the state of Texas.
Wow.
So I'm sure the Aggies are going to blow up Brett McMurphy's Twitter that there are more than one SEC programs in the state. But yeah, looks like I don't know if it'll be the Star or the Death Star, but we'll be doing SEC.
I'm sure that'll make Nick Saban happy.
See, there's a reason why that breaking news sounder went off by itself.
Yeah. It was ahead of
giving you a warning.
It knew. Okay,
firing the warning shot. See, I know there's going to be some. See, Texas is already doing it. They're already having influence over the league. Media days in their home state.
Yeah. I don't know about you. I'd heard rumors for the last 3 or 4 years saying it was probably going to be moved to the Dallas-Fort Worth area.
Before Texas and OU joined the league, that they wanted to have it there.
This was an adjunct to a story that I did the other day, but it kind of bears a little bit of repeating. You weren't with us the other day. Let me ask you this. Are you familiar with the term skip lagging?
Skip lagging.
Yeah. Do you know what skip lagging is?
Sounds like something unsavory on Urban Dictionary, but I have not heard
I'll bet you have skip lagged before.
Skip lag. Okay.
Cam may have skip lagged before.
I don't think so.
Skip lagging is when you're flying, say, from, I don't know, let's just say you're coming home from Birmingham after the Texas-Alabama game.
Yeah.
And you got to change planes in DFW or Houston. Let's just say DFW. But all of a sudden you needed to cover something in Arlington, and you didn't use the last leg of your ticket. You just got off the plane and you went on and you found your own way home. That is skip lagging.
Okay.
I've done it many times in my life. I will tell you. Well, now the airlines are cracking down on it because they're saying that, guys are getting better rates to fly this, and then they're just junking the last half of the ticket. Well, to that extent, American Airlines has barred a 17-year-old from flying with the airline for 3 years because he tried to use a skip lagging ticket. He said he couldn't fly with the airline for 3 years. He was then later said he never violated any policy or broke any contract. He simply went to a counter to get his boarding pass. They barred a teenager who planned to disembark during his layover in, wait for it, Cam, Charlotte, instead of New York, his final destination. The teenager's father, Hunter Parsons, said the airline barred his son from flying with them for 3 years because he was planning to use a $150 skip-lagging ticket, a practice prohibited by many airlines, including American. His ticket was canceled and banned from AA for 3 years, but he never actually did anything wrong. He never even got his boarding pass, said his dad. Skip-lagging is also known as hidden city or throwaway ticketing. That's that controversial, as I mentioned, cost-saving strategy where passengers book tickets with a layover with the idea of skipping the second leg of the flight. While skip-lagging helps passengers save money, it often results in lost revenue for the airlines. When I've done it, it wasn't as a cost saver. It's because I had to do it. I had to get off and go somewhere or do something. The kid was scheduled to fly from Gainesville, Florida to New York City with a layover in Charlotte. The gate agents in Florida took his son to a security room to be questioned after seeing his North Carolina driver's license and suspected that he wouldn't continue to fly to New York City. So his father said his family had to purchase a new direct ticket, which cost more than $400 so the teenage son could fly to Charlotte. He said his son didn't know he was doing anything wrong. So skip lagging.
Yeah.
That's something to keep an eye on.
American sucks anyway.
Gonna look up skip lagging on Urban Dictionary, see if anything pops up. I'll let you guys know.
Yeah. We got a couple of oops, didn't mean to do that type of thing. The Cincinnati Reds had a Hall of Fame introduction yesterday for former general manager Gabe Paul and former pitchers Danny Graves and Bronson Arroyo. After the induction of Paul, none other than Hall of Famer Johnny Bench was at the podium. And he was talking about, and he said that Gabe Paul signed him for $400 per month out of high school. That was in Binger, Oklahoma. And Paul's daughter, Jenny, said, that's cheap. And then Ben said, yeah, well, he was Jewish. So then afterwards, he said he went up to Jenny, because Jenny then said, he went up to her and said, kind of, was I wrong? Should I not have said that? I didn't, was that insensitive? She goes, I didn't even hear you say it. But Johnny Bench, quick to apologize. He said, I recognize my comment was insensitive. I apologize to Jenny for taking away from her father the full attention he deserves. Gabe Paul earned his place in the Reds Hall of Fame, same as the others who stood on that stage. I'm sorry that some of the focus is on my inappropriate remark instead of solely on Gabe's achievement. Yikes. She said, I didn't even hear him say that. He came up and said, were you offended? And I said, for what? I didn't even hear him say that. And then she went on to say, no. And she wasn't bothered by it. And somebody said, are you Jewish? And she said, nope. My mother was Episcopal. When they got married in 1939 on opening day, April 17th, he made a pact with my mother not to interfere, and he did not interfere. I never saw him walk into a temple. I never heard him talk about his faith. But his parents were from the Ukraine. She said that. So he had 12 children. Most of them practiced Judaism, and that he had a strong faith, but her mother was left to raise Jenny as an Episcopalian. So that was the deal. He apologized, and they moved on. Meanwhile, the Spanish women's national soccer team has apologized after the country's federation posted a now-deleted video on social media of 4 players appearing to mock New Zealand's traditional haka, the haka dance.
Oh.
It's that
they mocked it, huh?
Ceremonial Maori war dance. Many of the country's national teams
Euless Trinity
does the haka. They actually do. I found this out later. They actually
they changed a few years ago, didn't they?
Yeah, to the sippy towel.
Yeah, that's right.
They do. They don't do the haka. They do the sippy towel.
They used to do the haka.
They did
back in the day.
Yeah, because it's a very strong Polynesian community up there in right near DFW Airport, and so they've apologized for that. And then finally, Cam, here's a question for you, and same question for Jeff. The question is, how often should you poop?
I've contemplated this.
Have you?
A lot in my life.
Well,
Yeah,
the answer is not 11 times in one day.
No. Sorry, Texter. They're the one that.
I would say 3. Right? If you're eating
3 a day,
if you're eating 3 meals a day, you should have 3 BMs, right?
Well, the answer might not be exactly what you say, what you think. Dr. Fulseed May, an associate professor at the David Geffen School of Medicine at UCLA, says it's a misconception. He's a gastroenterologist. I even have people who try and make appointments because they say, I stopped having a bowel movement every single day a few years ago. And I have to remind people there's not really a fixed or normal number. The notion probably stems from the Victorian era belief that having a bowel movement daily makes you healthier. But he said not necessarily. Most people will have anywhere between 1 per day up to, and you mentioned it, 3 times per day. Yeah. And he goes, sometimes all the way to 3 times per week. Anywhere in that range we consider normal. So if you're every other day, you're okay.
Nothing to see the doctor about.
According to the doctor from UCLA.
Look,
it doesn't have to be once a day. It doesn't have to be 3 times a day. Certainly doesn't have to be 11 times in a day.
There's somebody, I don't know who on this, there's several businesses on this 4th floor. I'm going to find the culprit who keeps defiling the bathroom. It could be multiple culprits. I don't know. But Somebody's going to get put on like the terrorist watch list if they keep up that activity in there. I'm just telling you.
It's happening.
Were the conditions fine when you went in there during the break, Craig?
Yes, I got lucky this time.
Good.
Yeah.
But sometimes we're not lucky.
Yeah, okay.
However many times that culprit's doing it is too much.
Second hour coming up on Light the Tower. We continue on with Light the Tower on the Horn. I should have seen this coming. Clean up from hour number one, literally and figuratively. Almost.
Everybody poops, Craig.
Yeah, there's lots of poop stories here. One person, the more high-quality food you eat, the less you will poop out. If you're going 3 times a day, then your diet needs some attention. So keep that in mind, Jeff. If you're going 3 times a day, your diet needs some attention.
It depends. Sometimes it's once, sometimes it's twice.
Yeah.
I know if I don't go at all during the day, I'm really concerned about my health.
Somebody else said, I try to hold it in all weekend so I can poop on company time Monday morning.
Uh-huh. That's the ticket right there.
Non-degenerate Spurs fan said, I had a hernia surgery a couple of years ago, and due to the pressure in that region, I didn't have a movement for 8 days. And I was told it was completely normal. Somebody said also, have y'all checked out The Quarterback on Netflix? Amazing docuseries.
Have not.
Yes.
But I did tell you during the break, when I had hernia surgery.
Yeah.
This was in 2011. They told me, they said, hey, drink because you can't strain your stomach muscles.
Right.
And they're like, you'll get constipated. You need to eat like a lot of Activia. So I was like Jamie Lee Curtis on the commercial. I was just like, I don't think I ate anything but Activia for like 3 or 4 days.
Loading that poo-poo pudding in you?
Yeah. Yeah, you had to.
Yeah. Somebody else said, sounds like a crocodile. Well, anyway, to me, somebody said.
It was not like bowel prep for the colonoscopy, which is still, if there's a hell on earth, that's it.
That's
right
part
there.
of the deal there.
Yeah.
Our friend Jim from Lago Vista, cancer survivor and battler, said going through radiation treatments, you're just happy to poop.
Yeah.
You are. Yesterday at coaching school, now you can imagine there's a lot of big dudes, a lot of coaches, and putting various and sundry quantities of different things down their gullet.
And as you can imagine, the food around the convention center with a bunch of high school football coaches, there's nothing healthy to eat around there.
Nope.
There's not a salad to be found.
Nope. Chili cheese, big oversized hot dogs, and nachos, and big greasy cheeseburgers, and things like that. That was part of the deal. I go into the restroom right after when I was talking to you yesterday.
That's the same conversation where Mike Roach
with
joined
you
us?
and Mike Roach. Yeah, we were talking about that. And right after that, I was going to go get something to eat, but I went into the restroom to go number one.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm standing at the urinal, and there's a guy in a stall, and the most unearthly sounds are coming out of that stall that you hear, just horrific sound. You want to say, man, you ought to see a doctor or something. I mean, it was just this explosion stuff. And apparently one guy was in there, not in the stall with him, but was in the bathroom that was accompanying the guy. They both walked in. One's in the stall, one's at the sink. And the guy in the stall is just all kinds of rumbles and explosions. And the guy at the sink goes, hey, man, you sure you want to eat seafood tonight? And the guy goes, it's going to make the same sound either way.
There you go.
So
That's what I'm talking about. That's what coaching school's all about.
Yeah.
That, Craig, is what we call a growler.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. And it's funny you bring that up. I can't remember if I told this story before. There was one year when
you digging this, Cam? You digging this conversation?
Some good stuff right now.
All right. Well, there was one year when I was doing high
Hope
school.
the Austin Chronicle's listening. I want to win an award next year for this segment we're having.
There was one year when I was doing high school football up in Dallas on radio. I was doing a game between Highland Park and Wiley. And the game was at Wiley's old stadium, not the really nice new one they have now, where the one they share with Wiley East.
Talking like rusty metal
old
stands
thing, yeah, that was built for a 3A program originally. And we were allowed to use the visiting radio booth. Now, in order to use the visiting radio booth, you actually had to, there was only one entrance to the press box on one side, and the visiting radio booth was on the far end. To get to it, you had to walk through the bathroom. You open the door,
oh man,
you walk through the bathroom, and then you
I've heard about
close the
these
door,
setups before,
and then you do there. So that was the deal. And nothing happened. We did it, but I was warned about it from a guy who said, oh, you're working the game at Growler Stadium, are you? And I said, what? I said, no, it's Pirates Stadium. He goes, no, it's Growler Stadium. I said, what are you talking about? He goes, the Growler's in there. I said, the what? The bathroom. He goes, you got to walk through it to get to the visiting radio booth. So like, okay. So I had that in mind when I got there, and I thought about that dude. So I took my headset, clamped it on the toilet bowl with the microphone pointed down to the toilet, called him on the broadcast unit, and I'm wearing the other headset. And he goes, hello? And I said, where am I now? And I hit flush. He goes, oh, you're at the Growler. Okay. The Growler.
That is awesome.
A growler is another term for like a big coffee holder.
Yeah.
Is a growler.
Yeah.
But I think of that dude every time I see it, the Growler.
Yeah, I think it was I forgot. Maybe it was HEB one time that had like you could get beer growlers, and I just saw a sign that said beer growlers, and I go walk by and I go, oh, sounds like Sunday mornings in college.
Somebody on the specs take like, who does number 2 what for? Austin Powers. It says, take it easy, man. Blow an O-ring, Tom Arnold. Y'all are some of the weirdest dudes. Not sure what your obsession is with pooping, but you seem to talk this nonsense a little too frequent. No, it was coming off the story that we had about that.
I got told, I saw last week on Twitter, somebody blamed me for all the scuttlebutt going around because I talk too much sports.
Yeah. Listen, it's been said a long time. You don't talk too much. Don't talk too much sports. Don't talk enough sports. Blah blah blah.
Can you imagine?
Hey, this talk has been gold, right? Or little brownish.
So
Well played,
and
sir.
a lot of
Well
this is
played.
just playing off of what folks are texting in. Somebody said that what I was talking about, where the guy was in the bathroom stall yesterday, said, did it sound like a tuba submerged in gravy? That's a great way to describe it. That's a great way to describe it.
Oh my gosh, man! I
So I
heard
said,
that description before.
sounds like someone was trying to get the last of the ketchup out of the squeeze bottle. Yeah, you can pick a number of different ways.
A tuba submerged in gravy.
Yeah.
Craig, you are a self-described gravy whore.
Here's one.
So
Poop jokes aren't the best jokes, right? But they're a solid number 2. Okay, we can move on. All right, we can move on. That was. Especially said you did have to wait till lunchtime to talk about this. Come on, man.
when's the last time you had gravy on a meal, Craig, or with the meal? Been recently, or is it time? Is it time for something with gravy in it or on it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Where are you
Been a
at?
bit.
Where are you at on biscuits and gravy?
Love biscuits and gravy.
Oh yeah, the Robert E. Lee at Leavenworth Cafe.
Well, even before that, when I was a little kid and all that.
That's still the best sausage gravy I think I've ever had.
Yeah, it's great. Linda and I, when we were on vacation, we were in Asheville up in the mountains. Beautiful up there. And Cam knows that. Asheville is a beautiful city. And we went to Tupelo Honey, which is a chain of restaurants, and it's good breakfast. And they serve what are called, my dad used to call them this as well, cat head biscuits. Cat head, because they're as big as a cat's head.
Mm-hmm.
And we had it, and I think we'd even posted it too. Big old cat head biscuits, and we had it with honey, but you could get it with gravy and all that sort of stuff too. So anyway, quoting the great Ron White, "You ever take a poop so big your pants fit better?" He said, "I hope that happens tonight."
I'm a huge Ron White fan.
Yeah.
I like the bit he does where he's talking about the guy who strapped himself to a tree in the middle of a hurricane to prove how fit he was.
Yeah.
It's not that the wind is blowing, it's what the wind is blowing.
Yep. True enough. Okay. Back to the regular topics.
Somebody on the text line has some weird obsession with the female boxers and OnlyFans models.
That was the
What is
one.
that deal
That
about?
was the woman in Ireland over the weekend who the boxer won her bout, and she has a fans only account, and she flashed.
Mm-hmm.
She revealed herself. So
all right, that was not on my radar.
Yeah,
So.
that happened.
All right.
Bucky and Aaron were talking about that. A lot of what we talked about was the interaction we had with coaches at coaching school, and it's always a good thing. It's a rite of summer for me. Like I said, I've done it since 1985. I go every year. Even when I missed Big 12 Media Day last year because of the wedding, after the wedding, the next day, I flew to San Antonio to be there for coaching school to do that. And then Linda flew independently out from there. We met in Los Angeles to go to the All-Star game afterwards. But I went to coaching school first. And part of the reason, big part of the reason, obviously, is because the THSCA has me, involved in some of their events. They have me, MC the Hall of Honor discussion and moderate the Hall of Honor banquet, moderate the panel discussion, things like that.
You want to talk about questions I don't know the answer to. The question I did not know the answer to was anytime anybody asked me, "Hey, where's Craig?" Your guess is as good as mine at this point. He's running around doing 90 different things at this deal.
So there's a fair amount of that. But the other real beneficial thing that I accrue out of coaching school, and this goes way back before I was ever even known by anybody with the Coach Association, when I was just covering it when I worked in Dallas, is getting the opportunity to hear from top-of-the-line college football coaches and administrators and to visit with high school coaches from across the state.
Mm-hmm.
The education that comes out of just being immersed in that deal is really important. So that's the other reason going. Toward that end, after the panel discussion yesterday, G.J. Kinney, the head coach of the Texas State Bobcats, was on that panel, and he had some good things to say. Everybody got a chance, like I said, to speak multiple times during the panel discussion. Jeff Traylor, I think, probably takes the honor for being most entertaining as he was. He was talking about his wardrobe. Were you in at that point, Jeff, when Jeff Traylor was talking about his wardrobe?
Oh, yeah.
With
his San Antonio tuxedo.
Yeah, the San Antonio tuxedo. He had the sport jacket on, great-looking pair of boots on, had shirt tail untucked hanging out there, and a Roadrunner ball cap on. So he was talking about that. But he was talking about all the different guys there. And then, like I said, G.J. Kinney had some really good things to say as well. And then afterwards, I wanted to talk with him about getting ready to have his first season as a head football coach. Like I said, he and I hadn't had an interview conversation since he was at Texas. And so it was good to have the opportunity to visit with G.J. Kinney and to talk about this upcoming first season he has as head coach of the Bobcats. All right, there's that old coaching phrase about drinking from a fire hose. Have you been able to progress beyond that now to start to get your ball club ready for the season after taking the job?
Yeah, I think I've just been so busy recruiting and trying to get this roster right. Even over vacation, I was working. That's part of it year one. But I think this thing is heading in the right direction. Things are looking upwards, and I think we got the right leadership with President Danfus and Don Coryell, our AD, and this place can be really special. And just excited to really get to work now.
I always ask coaches who are going into a job, when you roll up your sleeves, what comes to mind is job one? And most of the time they say assembling a staff, and then they get together. Was it a similar path for you?
Yeah, I think for me, a lot of my staff came with me from UIW, which was really, really good. And I think that translates to, spring practice and our kids. For me, it was the recruiting part of it and developing the relationships with the Texas high school coaches. That was one of the first things I did. Their headquarters are right in San Marcos. So we went over there and I spoke to the board and spoke to the high school coaches and developing those relations, letting them know that, hey, we're going to be recruiting your kids. And we, like I said on stage, we have to recruit Texas high school kids to get to where we want to go. And whether that's high school, whether it's in the portal, they're leaving Oklahoma State to come back to Texas, a Texas kid. So we need the high school coaches' help. And so developing those relationships and kind of rekindling some of those relationships was probably number one.
I know you lost an outstanding running back to injury. What does it do for your roster makeup and what you're looking at right now?
Yeah. Anytime you lose someone like Lincoln Perry, you can't replace him. But we feel like we have really good depth at the running back position, and I was able to sign two guys right when I first got the job, two Texas kids, one from junior college and one from the portal. So it was a situation where, at the time people were like, hey, you might have too many running backs on the roster, but I know the style of play we do and those running backs, you really can't have enough of them. So excited about that room still. And the type of person Lincoln is, he's going to provide great leadership there. He's going to be a coach on the field, and he'll come back stronger than ever.
I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you what every fan always asks about the quarterbacks.
Yeah.
And you have a unique perspective in that category.
Yeah, we do. And we have a couple of transfers in there and a high school kid that are going to be battling for it. And, we have different styles. But once again, you can't have too many of those quarterbacks. And I'm always going to try to upgrade that room every year. I tell my coaches all the time, don't bring in backups. Bring in guys that you feel like can beat the starter out. So, we felt like I had a really good sprint, and Malik and CJ did some really good things, but we brought in TJ and PJ, to come in here and compete. And who's going to be the starter? We'll see who carries the offense the best, who has the best leadership qualities, and ultimately who scores the most points. And we feel like can win us ball games.
Yes, you heard GJ correctly, that he has a BJ, a CJ, and a PJ all competing for the starting quarterback spot. But Malik Hornsby's probably going to be the guy.
Right. Yeah.
One might expect it that it would
the Arkansas transfer from Fort Bend Marshall product.
Yeah.
I just,
and it's tough, by the way, losing Lincoln Perry.
Yeah, but, overall, Craig, you've heard me complain for years about the administration at my alma mater.
Yeah.
Just that they're not that invested in athletics. They might say one thing and do another. Really, from the president, it's been pretty much non-existent on athletic matters, period. That's changed a lot. And again, I think I said this the first hour. Noticed that when I was down for the baseball game, like, wow, the AD is present and the president is present and they're interacting with the students and they're involved and engaged. That might not sound like much, but that hadn't been the case there at all times. So that was really good to see, and I think you've got a really good football coach in G.J. Kinney. Played high school football in the state. His dad was a high school coach. Played for Jeff Traylor at Gilmer for that 1 year, and really he's starting to take back Texas deal where they really want to get back to recruiting high school kids and have their roster chock full of high school kids in the state. At this point, UTSA, in terms of program stability, program prestige, has passed Texas State. You look at where they are right now. I mean, with Houston and UCF and Cincinnati moving on, I mean, you can make the argument UTSA is on that upper tier of G5 programs. If you're Texas State, that's where you want to be. So hopefully G.J. Kinney can get them there, but the support from administration is really big. I'm hearing the complete opposite of what I heard whenever Withers took that job and when Jake Spavital took that job. Complete opposite in terms of what I'm hearing on the administration.
In terms of support from the administration.
Yeah.
Yep. And, like I said, you felt for those guys, those two guys, what they had to deal with at the time.
I knew what Everett Withers was dealing with, and then, when I started hearing some of the same stuff, Spav was dealing with some of the same stuff, it was just like, all right, here we go again.
Yeah.
We'll be doing this again in 3 or 4 years. Hopefully, though, now things will change with the new leadership and with G.J. Kinney running that program.
All right. So that's some Texas State coming up. We'll have our second hour Longhorn Notebook as we continue with Light the Tower here on the Horn, 104.9, 101.9, AM 1260. We're live, local, and digital on the Horn app and at hornfm.com.
See the curtains hanging in the window in the evening on a Friday night.
It's Light the Tower on the Horn. You've heard this song before, right? Summer Breeze?
Yeah.
Hills and Cross. You know what it's about?
No idea.
It's about when one of them was growing up in Midland, Texas.
Is it really?
Yep. Family was divorced. And one of them grew up and loved the Beatles so much they called him England Dan. Yeah, the same one that becomes England Dan and John Ford Coley later. And now you know the rest of the story. It's time now for a Longhorn Notebook.
Do we want to do flex first real quick before we get into this? Or
Yeah, that was my bad. It was supposed to be flex.
it's all good.
Not
Hey.
Longhorn Notebook. I'm glad you reminded me. It was supposed to be a Flex 30 update and not a Longhorn Notebook. Sorry about that.
No, it's all good. Let's just hit the flex sounder.
Yeah, yeah, that's my bad.
You need to go see Dr. Eckert, Craig, for anything soon. Shout out to Dr. Eckert and things he's doing
with everything with Brain Vault, right? Right? Absolutely.
You don't need to get the. Do you do the preseason teeth cleaning before the season starts?
Why not?
Start doing TV work. Just make sure you're good.
Get that taken care of.
Yeah,
that's a smart move. Congratulations, by the way, go out to the school that happens to be located in the town that I live in now, to Georgetown High School. So congratulations to Georgetown High because they rated out. You know, we talk a lot about the Directors Cup and how Texas finished second to Stanford and all that. Well, the George Brazil Cup honors the high school athletic program that accumulated by points the best overall high school athletic program in the greater Austin, Central Texas area, named, of course, for the late, great sports writer George Brazil. Yeah. You met George. You got to know George.
Yes. There were times where I was doing stringer work where I would call in stats. And if something big had happened, they would transfer you to George so he could write it up in the capsules for the Saturday paper.
Yeah, the great George Brazil. Anyway, the number one team, the number one finisher in the Brazil Cup standings was Georgetown this year. The girls soccer led the way by winning a district title, reaching state tournament. Boys swimming team won state. Boys cross country qualified for state. Eagles scored points in 14 categories, more than any other school. Georgetown was third last year with 80 points, and they're like an annual perennial one. Round Rock finished second in that. Georgetown ended up having 89 points the most. Round Rock, 74 total points. Vandegrift finished third. Dripping Springs fourth. Liberty Hill fifth. Westlake sixth. Westwood 7. Rouse 8. Lake Travis 9. And Wimberley top 10 out of the 67 high school athletic programs in the greater Austin and Central Texas area. And so congratulations to all of them, and certainly congratulations to Georgetown, winners of the Brazil Cup.
Where'd Florence finish?
I can tell you. You really want to know?
Sure, tell me.
As I'm scrolling down, I'm still scrolling. Now, wait a minute. Hey, how about, all right, Taylor was 11. Lhasa finished 12th. Not bad.
Nice.
For Lhasa. Then it goes Burnett, Johnson City, Marble Falls, a tie with Blanco, Cedar Park, and McCallum at 16. Giddings, Thorndale, Lago Vista, Hendrickson, Eastview, Pflugerville, LaGrange, Connolly, Thrall, then a tie with Granger and Hayes, Lampasas, San Marcos, Stony Point. Vista Ridge was tied with Stony at number 32. Then it's Leander, Gateway Prep, Austin High, Weiss tied with Austin High at 37. Buda Johnson, LBJ, Gerald's number 41.
Okay.
All right. Smithville, Northeast, Anderson, Achieve tied with Crockett, and Elgin, and Glenn, and Hutto. At 50 is Ann Richards.
Starting to get a little worried here.
Bastrop at 51. Cedar Ridge tied with Bastrop at 51. Lockhart is 53, tied with Navarro College Prep and New Tech. Del Valley 56, Eastside 56, and Florence, tied for 56 out of 67 programs. The Buffaloes softball and boys cross country teams picked up points up from a tie for 62nd a year ago. So they're up 6 spots on that. It finishes, and also Luling was in that tie. So with Luling, Florence, Eastside Memorial, and Del Valle all tied for 56th with a total of 2 points.
Hey, two's better than zero.
Yep. So then there's McNeil, Manor, Travis, and then Aikens, Bartlett, Cedar Creek, and Idea Montopolis did not score. So anyway, there it is, your Brazil Cup standings for the just completed academic and athletic school year, and congratulations to Georgetown on winning the Brazil Cup this year. All right, there it is. There is your Flex 30 update, and I had that ready to go, but I just forgot and went, hey, let's do Longhorn Notebook. So now we're going to do Longhorn Notebook.
Just congrats to the kids in Gerald for doing well.
They finished 41st.
You're thriving in spite of your bloodline and your ancestry over
there.
They
finished 15 spots ahead of Florence.
Well, that's in these standings. In life, they're still lagging very, very far behind.
Okay, go on.
Did you hear what happened in Gerald, how everybody got unexpectedly excited? The town took an IQ test, and they all jumped for joy when it came back negative.
All right, stop that. Just stop it. All right, go on.
Cam, you ready for some more Sark cuts?
Let's do it.
All right, let's do it. Hold on, I lost my tab. I'm on that Red River tab. Give me just a second. There's that email from Cameron Parker. Let's get to cut number 3. We've heard Sark talk about this. This shouldn't take that much time to go through. I wrote a story on this. I talked to Sark about this spring when he was on the Texas Fight Tour. Basically, how does his recruiting philosophy jive with Texas going into the SEC? And has he had to change anything going to the SEC?
Really, no. When I got here, I assessed our roster. Okay, what do we need to do to be the best team we can be? And then what do we need to do to be the best team we can be in the future? And ultimately, I assessed the college football playoff, and I assessed who were the best teams in the CFP over the last decade. Well, ultimately, the majority of those teams are coming from the SEC. So, all right, how do we beat those teams? How do we build a roster to beat those teams? Well, you got to get big up front. You got to get physical up front. You got to have speed on the perimeter. So we have been recruiting this way since I got here. Nothing has changed in that aspect. It's made it a little easier to why we do what we do. I think you got to have big humans up front. You got to have speed on the perimeter. You got to have high football intellect in the middle of your roster, whether it's offense or defense. And ultimately, that's what we've tried to do. It's never perfect, but that's ultimately what we're trying to do.
So there you go. Again, don't need to belabor the point there. It kind of is what it is. This was my question for Sark yesterday in the press conference, because we only got more people attended, more media members attended than usually attend. It's usually me and like 2 other people. So we only got one question, but I asked Sark about football IQ. At this time last year, we're talking a lot about football IQ. Sark said that was one of the big issues in 2021. They had meetings and took different measures to make sure they were better in football IQ. And if Rod Babers is listening right now, I think he'll really like Sark's answer here, because this is something we've talked about on Longhorn Blitz a long time, that when a team starts doing what Sark describes here, that's how you know you feel like you're really getting somewhere. Cut 5, Cameron.
My wife asks me that question all the time, because I want to do it all, and I commit to doing it all. I mean, I thought what we did was really effective. Bringing in kind of an outside voice sometimes to talk about football IQ and football intellect, I think is helpful. I think ultimately it's hard to quantify in game what that looks like. But for me, the fact that our players are talking about football, that tells me we're making an impact. They're not talking about a video game, or they're not talking about they're talking about football. They're talking about 3rd and 4. They're talking about 4th down scenarios. They're talking about red zone. And were we perfect? No, obviously. But I think over time, we'll reap the benefits of it as long as we keep putting towards our energy, right, in that facility. So I'm actually excited for where we're at, because I think we can go to a new spot, a new place with our guys, and we are. And I think our players are excited about it too. Like, man, we are getting coached at the highest level to learn the game of football with new rules and what it might look like in college and what it might look like in the NFL. Like, I think they're embracing that, and that's what we want, you know. So we enjoy that aspect of it.
Talking to the guys at Media Days last week, especially like Janae Barron, Jordan Whittington also said this, the film study aspect. Guys are starting to see it pay dividends. Probably no better example of that than Janae Barron in the TCU game. He said he watched film, and before the game, he and Terry Joseph went over film again, and he said, look, they're going to run this, you know, it was that little perimeter screen they kept running, and he's like, you're going to see this a lot tonight. Be prepared. And what did they finish with in that game? 3.5 tackles for loss? Yeah. So that's, guys are starting to see the results of the work they're doing on their own. The tangible results are there. So that's awesome when you start getting to that point and coaches understand that, hey, guys, we can do as much as we can here, and trust that your guys are going to do something on their own. Because if you think you're just going to get better, this goes to high school, college, NFL, I don't care what level you're talking about. If you think you're just going to get better based on the film you watch as a team or as a position group and not do anything on your own, you're very sorely mistaken. So, and Craig, you've been around this thing long enough, and especially during this dark period, guys haven't done that.
Right.
Guys haven't been willing sometimes to put in work on their own and take time away from the social life or whatever to go watch film. So that should be a really good indicator of kind of where things are under Sark. Cam, let's go to cut 8 right here. You'll see some scuttlebutt on this. I know the Dallas Morning News had an article about this. Greg Sankey yesterday did a press conference at coaching school, and actually I missed most of it because I was having my one-on-one chat with David Pierce while that was going on. Again, we'll get to that tomorrow. But Greg Sankey said he wants to take a look at the early signing period and maybe do away with it. Sark was on the other end of the coin, and it's not that it was – I understand headline writers have jobs to do. It wasn't like it's not contentious. It wasn't they're at odds or clashing with each other. But you'll hear Sark's answer right here on the early signing period and why he feels like it needs to stay where it is.
I don't want a fine from the SEC before I'm in the conference. Okay, John, quote me. I don't know if that's the best avenue. The reason being is the student athlete and the high schools are way too equipped to graduate high school early and to be at college in January. So when you start to think about the majority of your class enrolling in January but not ever having a signing period, that's concerning to me. That was the reason we went to the early signing period. So do I think there's probably a happy medium in there? Yes. But the fact of not to have one at all, that's a little concerning, because I just hate to feel for a kid and his family going through the month of December, no signing period. I'm supposed to go to school A, but I don't sign, and when and how do I get to celebrate that? That's a little concerning. So no disrespect to Mr. Sankey, that's just how we feel here, and we'll navigate our way through it, I'm sure.
Craig, you've talked to numerous high school coaches over the years and numerous college coaches. I've heard from college coaches and high school coaches over the years. It seemed like when the early signing period talk came up initially, everybody was kind of on board, say, hey, put this thing in August. I know Mac was on record saying he wanted it in August.
Talked about it yesterday.
Charlie Strong said he wanted it in August. I remember before it happened, Tom Herman said he wanted it. He'd rather it be in August than December. I think if you ask Sark, he'd probably prefer it to be in August. High school coaches definitely wanted it in August because, hey, do this before our season starts, so that way we're not getting to the week of a state championship game. And, oh, by the way, my star quarterback or running back now has a decision to make on where he's going to go to school, and it's got to get done right now. So I think maybe that happy medium is just move it to August. And if a kid needs to get a release or whatever, there's a coaching change, just put provisions in that he can do that in December.
The only negative I've heard about August, and this is from high school coaches, the only negative I've heard about, and it's not so much about college coaches, but it's more about high school coaches.
Yeah.
The negative that college coaches might have with an August signing date is the specter of injury, but most of them are realistic enough to know, look, he's going to take a chance on that no matter whether he's signed early or not. The only negative I've heard from high school coaches is our guy going to Cadillac it a little once he signed his letter of intent? Is he going to pull back and take it easy and not give the effort? Most high school coaches feel that's on their shoulders as coaches to make sure their guy doesn't go half speed and whatever and mail it in. But that is a concern.
Yeah.
It's one of the few.
You hear stuff like that, not so much with football because it's just a commitment, and that can be revoked at any time. It can be the quote-unquote mutual parting of the ways. You hear about it in volleyball, boys and girls basketball, softball, baseball. You hear about it in some of those other sports, but football you don't hear it as much. Maybe that would change with the early signing period, but I think for coaches to get it out of the way during camp, at least it's not during the week where you're trying to game plan and you haven't played games yet. And I think for the high school coaches, your season hasn't started yet. Just get that out of the way, maybe even before you scrimmage and be done with it.
The one question I have brought up is, will you have more situations like Jaden Blue or Quinn Ewers?
Where a guy
skips that I've signed my letter of intent, and now I'm going to pull out and not even play my senior year.
Well, and I saw Mike Roach tweeting some stuff from the UIL press conference was this morning, and apparently that was kind of the deal from the UIL on NIL stuff. As long as the state of Texas law says what it says, and there are no-nos in there for high school athletes on what they can and can't do.
Yeah, the
UIL said they will not make any kind of ruling as long as the state law is what it is.
So there you go.
Yeah.
Could it be far behind?
Yeah. Could have a deal. Could have a situation like that.
Yeah. All right, we'll be back to wrap up the program here on Light the Tower on the Horn.
Hey, we're talking about football season getting here before it gets here. Right now, as a matter of fact, is the perfect time to get in touch with Tom McKay and the folks at Audio Visual Consultations to upgrade your home entertainment setup before football season starts. I made that call a few years ago, so whenever football season starts and I get that first Sunday to sit on the couch and watch Red Zone all day, I'll be doing it on a 75-inch LG TV. That sound will be crystal clear and thumping my walls with that Sonos sound system. AV Consultations has the latest smart TVs and Sonos audio in stock, and if they don't have it, Tom McKay is connected with enough dealers across the country that he can have it for you at the drop of a hat. So you want that same setup like I've got? They can do that. That's no problem. Maybe you got something smaller, not as much space to work with, or you want something maybe in your man cave. You need a gaming setup. They can do that too. They put together projects that make sense for your budget and the amount of space you've got, which also means if you just want to blow it out and do a full tilt home theater experience with a 150-inch screen, AV Consultations can make that dream become a reality. But don't waste any more time. Just call right now, 512-255-8678. That's 255-8678. Call right now and let Tom McKay and Audio Visual Consultations help you realize the home entertainment setup of your dreams.
okay, I teased this, so I need to finish with this. So Jeff and I are both leaving yesterday. And I had earlier mentioned to Jeff and Mike Roach about one of my favorite places to go in Houston, and that's House of Pies.
Mm-hmm.
So I mentioned, and you asked me, you said, is there one going out west? And I said, yeah. So I go up there. I'd seen there was a new one there was a new one there in Cypress. So I stopped. I had a tuna melt, and I had a cut of pie, chocolate cream pie. I get back in the car, and Jeff texts me and says,
good call on House of Pies. We ended up, myself, Chris Hummer, and Hank South, little 24/7 crew, went over to the one off of Kirby.
Wow. So
had that Swiss and turkey melt and a piece of coconut cream pie.
See?
It was awesome.
The greatness of House of Pies. I'm actually going to post something on Facebook about House of Pies coming up. We'll be back with you tomorrow. For our man behind the glass, our producer, Cameron Parker, and for my co-host, Jeff Howe, I'm Craig Way. Stay tuned. It's the Zay part of Chad and Zay and Bucky Godbolt. That's coming up next. We'll visit with you tomorrow. Light the Tower on the Horn.